establishing mechanism to flush out their members of parliament who would dare vote in secret to approve any of President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees who've been left in limbo a month after their vetting.
If any of them cannot understand that this interest of this country remain paramount, being asked by the party and their constituents would actually take issues with them. We will put mechanisms in place to be able to know.
With Parliament set to rise in a week, the countdown has started towards an eventual secret ballot on the nominees. We hear from minority MPs who say they will not dare disrespect the party's wishes.
Where we are, we haven't changed our position. We are saying that no, he's living too large, he should show by example.
The party has asked us to do, we will do. In fact, there is even the likelihood that we may actually gain votes.
Also tonight, government's chances of closing a $3 billion deal with the IMF hangs in the balance as a minority vows to battle passage of 3 revenue bills crucial to closing the deal unless their concerns are taken on board.
If you want to introduce additional taxes or increase the bandwidth, people are going to pay more, and it's going to affect the disposable income of the individual. So these are the matters we are looking at. Is it the right time to impose taxes on the people? But we can't eat your cake and so have it.
And in business, government is optimistic of securing Parliament's approval for 3 key revenue measures needed to aid in the approval of their program with the IMF board.
And in sports, 24 players arrive in camp ahead of Black Stars AFCON qualifier against Angola on Thursday. We'll bring an update on the team's training currently underway in Kumasi.
Now, you want to stay with us for that and more. Plus, your views are welcome. After this break, I'll share a few with you here on News Night. And you're live, your News Night is on Joy 99.7 FM. And let's go to Parliament tonight. In a matter of days, the House is set to rise, and the countdown has already started towards a major showdown over President Akufo-Addo's latest ministerial nominees. It has been a month since the nominees, including the appointee for the Trade Ministry, were vetted, and yet Parliament is yet to debate and possibly vote on whether to approve or reject them. Now, Joy News is learning the majority side has failed to lay the Appointments Committee report before the House for debate because they lack the numbers to force through an approval. We have more on that shortly, but first, the NDC is tonight restating its determination to whip its MPs in line to reject all of the nominees. But since it will come down to a secret vote, there are concerns some NDC MPs may break ranks and vote in secret for the nominees. Well, the General Secretary of the party, Fifi Kwete, has issued a stern warning to all NDC MPs intending to betray the party's loyalty. Now, he says they are establishing a mechanism to fish out MPs who might vote in secret for any of the nominees.
Of course we are monitoring. Of course we are. And also understand that what we are asking of them is not just something that party leadership is asking. It's actually something that the nation is demanding. We're talking about millions of Ghanaians expect that. Even foreign government can see it and asking that it be done. How much more us? Now, so if there are any MPs, and I know, I haven't been an MP myself, I do know. I mean, in the House, you have what you call friendships. Now, what I want to, again, signal is this. The position that we are taking is not a position that is against any individuals. Some of those who are being, what you call, appointed, nominated, are friends of mine. But this position, a position for Ghana, we are saying that it is simply not right in the midst of this crisis to allow this government to continue keeping the size of the government that they do. The day the president decides that, it is true. It's not only the NDC that's calling for it, the people of Ghana are calling for it, even foreign government are calling for it. Let me do something about the size of the government. They can renominate, and some of those same individuals will have no issue. We have no problem with them as individuals.
As we speak, Mr. Kwete, it's been more than a month since the vetting. And from every indication, it's because of the posture you've taken. And because also we don't have a substantive agri minister. Yeah. We don't have a substantive trade minister.
Yeah.
But even that, serious consequences.
But even that, I want to tell you exactly about the level of intransigence we have as far as the government is concerned. What does it take to be able to say, listen, this nation is going through a real crisis? It's not asking for too much for me to be able to reduce the size of government. But we're talking about the president, his vice, and the government. We just don't care. That's their attitude. We don't care. The country can go to anywhere. We are going to do what we've got to do. The boys must have jobs. The girls must have jobs.
Eventually, this will come to the floor in a debate. I mean, Parliament is rising next week. So definitely between now and next week, this should be decided. I need to ask you, and you remember, you possibly would have noticed, the last time an issue like that about ministers being approved came up, it sparked grassroots revolt in your party. Because the people ended up being approved and they got votes from your members. When the party was explicit that these individuals we don't want to touch. What do you say to your grassroots about this?
The individual, and the MPs who... Our MPs, I believe, will rise to the occasion. Now, if any of them cannot understand that this interest of this country remain paramount, being asked by the party, it simply means that they are not conscious yet of the gravity of the situation. And their constituents would actually take issues with them. Have you instructed them to stay in the House and vote against it, or they should leave? Because many said this is a secret ballot, remember? To vote against it. So they should stay? Apps to vote against. But remember, it's secret ballot. Yes, we know. Is there a important addition to that? We know that. It's a secret ballot. Sure, we know. But you don't have the power. You know who. And these MPP learned that on the 7th of January 2021. That can prove disastrous for you. We are aware. We've taken all that into consideration. So what are you doing? We are going to ensure that they do exactly as the people of Ghana expect of them to do. When it's a secret ballot. What the millions of Ghanaians expect of them to do. To understand that this is nothing personal. You have a lot of faith. You have a lot of faith in your 136 members of parliament. Yes, because I do understand. I do feel that they appreciate what is going on in this country. Do you understand the consequence from the party if they break ranks and possibly someone votes and you may not even know the person? Do you understand? Have you told them what is the consequence? How do you know we may not know? Well, MPP hasn't found out the person who voted for Abambagbing still. So I guess that's why I'm believing that you may not know. I tell you that we will put mechanisms in place to be able to know.
Well, let's speak to Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante. Kweku, how are NDC MPs reacting to this warning we just heard there from Fifi Kwete that the party will have mechanisms to identify any NDC MP who might vote for any of the nominees?
Evans, I spoke with Dr. Clement Apag, the MP for Bulsa South. I also spoke with MP for Pando, Honorable De La Soa. The two are categorical that the feeling within their ranks in Parliament is that this directive from the party is in the best interest, and that is something that they are going to do. They are upbeat that none of them is going to go the way it did the last time, and that all of them will vote against President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees when it comes to the floor for a vote.
But we believe approving them is only going to add on to public expenditure. So yes, we are going to do what the party has said, and I'm very confident that we will do just that.
How sure can you be that what happened the last time will not happen when some of your, because these are secret votes? Can there be any mechanism, properly so-called, to be able to whip all MPs in line to do the same thing when people go into the secret box and can do what they want?
Well, the party has made it very clear, and I believe that as members of the NDC, members of Parliament, we have also learnt our lessons from previous occurrences. I know many Ghanaians and our rank and file expressed disquiet. Many of them were truly disappointed in us for what happened. So for us as members of Parliament, I would say this also gives us an opportunity to redeem ourselves. So that cause for redemption has presented itself. If you combine that with the fact that we are under a 3-line whip, I think that I am confident enough to say that what the party has asked us to do, we will do. In fact, there is even the likelihood that we may actually gain votes from our colleagues on the other side, from what we are picking up. So we cannot say 100%, but we will do our best, and I believe that we would redeem ourselves and also at least show to Ghanaians that we can walk the talk.
Well, we have said over and over again that President Akufo-Addo should show an example by reducing his large government. So we are where we are. We haven't changed our position. We are saying that no, he's living too large. He should show by example.
Kweku, it has been a month since the vetting. Where is the appointment committee's report, and why has Parliament not debated it yet?
Indeed, Evans, the appointment committee report has actually been laid in Parliament more than 2 weeks ago. Ordinarily, if you look at the way business in Parliament is carried out, this report would have been taken, would have been debated, and a vote would have happened. But clearly, the reason why this appointment committee report has not been taken and voted on yet is because of the numbers game. The NPP have 137 MPs plus an independent MP who caucuses with them. The NDC also have 136. But we know that for a while now, Sarah Addo has not been attending Parliament. We also know that there's a deputy minister who's also currently outside of the country. So that brings the NPP numbers to 136. If the NDC are also able to marshal all 136 MPs to the floor, the motion will lose, because according to the standing orders, when there's a tie on a motion, the motion is lost. And so it's clearly a numbers game, and the majority side have not been able to marshal the numbers to be on the floor. We know that only a few days back, the NDC directed its party members to always come to Parliament. And indeed, it has been so. They are almost always on the floor. It is not so clear what the majority strategy is. But we expect that within this week and next week, the MPP side are going to get all their MPs on the floor. I mentioned Sarah Addo early on. For the whole of this meeting, she's only come to Parliament not more than twice. Indeed, today she was in the House. We know that on Thursday, government is hoping that the 3 financial bills will all be voted on, and will get those revenue bills as part of get that bill. Sarah Addo is back. We do not know if she will stay up until Thursday when this financial vote will be taken, and as to whether or not she will stay until the vote on the ministerial nominees are taken. The last time she was here, she came for a day, and then she missed the rest of the sittings until today. So it's clearly a numbers game. The report has been laid more than 2 weeks ago. The minority have made it clear on that committee that they are against all the nominees the president has put forward. So it is by majority vote that the House is expected to vote. And until the majority side feel like they have the numbers, either from their side or by being able to convince some members on the NDC side to join them in that secret vote, you may not see the vote happening ever.
And could you stay with me, because you just touched on another major decision that Parliament will be confronted with in the next 48 hours. Indeed, a tense 48 hours lay ahead in Parliament as the NDC minority vows to block the passage of 3 important revenue bills crucial to the country gaining $3 billion IMF deal. Already the minority say they have reservations. And Kweku, you've been speaking to member on the NDC side on the Finance Committee, Richard Champon, who has been explaining their concerns.
We have some reservations, so the committee is built to meet again, so that we fine-tune the final draft, so that the report will be presented to the plenary. So as I speak, we are just from a committee meeting. I know within up to Thursday, the fine-tuning will be done, so that the chairman can go ahead and present the committee's report, provided our input will be taken on board, so that when the report is tabled before members will also debate it and make their input, so that the speaker will put the question, so that we'll go cross by cross, and then we'll see how to deal with those matters, either to reduce the rate or the threshold, we are going to deal with it or whatever, so that the final decision will be taken either Friday or Thursday or Friday or the following week, so that we'll bring finality to this task force. Because it was part of the 2023 budget presented by the finance minister. So I know we are going to deal with it, but we have some reservations. The way we are looking at the economic environment that we find ourselves, the hardship that people are complaining about, inflation of 52%. So on top of all these, if you want to introduce additional taxes or increase the bandwidth, people are going to pay more, and it's going to affect the disposable income of the individual. So these are the matters we are looking at. Is it the right time to impose taxes on the people? But they are looking at the IMF deal so that they can rake in the 3 billion facility. But we can't eat your cake and so have it. So let's also think about the ordinary person on the street. If we impose this additional tax, the tax burden will be heavy on them.
And Kweku, you say in the next 48 hours this will come to the floor. To be specific, on Thursday. Remember that Parliament, from what I understand, is rising soon. When exactly is this? And I wonder what the mood is as we anticipate Thursday's showdown.
Evans, the expectation is that Parliament would go for Easter break 31st of this month. That is next week Friday, to make way for that Easter break for members to go and be with their families and in their constituencies. The expectation is that that is the date tentatively. But if government are not able to get some of these business through, the expectation is that they will sit through the following week up until Easter before MPs can go on break. Parliament has declared that on Thursday, no other business will be transacted except these 3 revenue measures, clearly telling you that government is coming in with some fierce force to be able to get this through. On Thursday, that is the expectation that these revenue measures will all come, the third reading will happen, then a vote will be taken. The minority say they have some concern. Our understanding is that even this morning, the Finance Committee met over some of these revenue bills to clear some of the outstanding issues that the minority have. I spoke with some highly placed sources, both on the minority and the majority sides of the Finance Committee, who told me that as far as they are concerned, they've done their bit, and it's up to the leadership on both sides to negotiate and come to some agreement. And that is what they are expecting, that by Thursday, this negotiation would have concluded, and then there will be a vote, because the majority side will not risk putting it up for a vote, and then it will be rejected. Mind you, this is not a secret vote. This is normally voice vote. If it goes to the voice vote and is challenged, it will come with a head count. If it comes to a head count and the minority members have more MPs on the floor than their colleagues on the majority, these revenue measures would all have collapsed. And it's not so tidy for government, especially now that they are looking to get in this IMF deal just in time before the end of March or as soon as April. So clearly, the battle lines are now drawn. The minority say that if you factor in our concern, we may go with you on Thursday, but if not, then we might delay this for a while up until Easter.
And the days are counting indeed. And you've mentioned the question about the numbers. Addo is back in the House. But the NDC, we know they've also lost one, technically. I mean, we still don't know what's happening with that particular MP. So the numbers are down to 136.
And so, yes, they have 136 because Joe Quay said is technically not an MP who can transact business on the floor of the House. Sometimes I see him in the precincts of Parliament. He's in the Justice Subject, but he never comes to the floor whenever such crucial matters are taken. And so that leaves NDC with 136 MPs to be able to come to the floor whenever there's any such crucial votes. The NPP ordinarily have 138. But mind you, there are two MPP MPs that the majority leadership may not be able to count on. First, Sarah Joasafo, who the last time she was in the House was about 3 weeks ago. She was here again today. We don't know if she will come tomorrow and the day after. We also know that there's a deputy minister who is said to have gone outside the country for some medical experiences. We do not have so much detail. She's not been around in Parliament for a while. I've not seen her. So their number also comes to 136. And so if it is 136 apiece on both sides and there's any votes, because the majority will be the one proposing the motion, it will tie. And once it ties, it will be lost. And so Addo is now very crucial. Today, when she was leaving Parliament, the members on the majority side, some of whom have been asking that she loses a seat, were actually cheering her on. You understand the clear political gaming going on there. So expectation is that she will continue coming tomorrow on Thursday when these financial bills and other such crucial business, including the ECCI, which has been on eye for some time, if all these business is expected to come up on the floor, Frank Anodom Prayers, Majority Chief Whip, will clearly need every particular member on the majority side to be on the floor to be able to get those businesses through.
Thank you very much. And I want to bring in the Dean of the economist and Dean of the Business School at the University of Cape Coast, Professor John Gachi, into the conversation as far as these three bills are concerned and why they are so important to securing an IMF bailout. Remember that the government had insisted that they want an IMF bailout this month before the month is out on the 31st. And so this particular consideration is critical. Prof, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you.
The three bills in question, the Income Tax Amendment Bill, the Excise Duty Amendment Bill, and the Growth and Sustainability Amendment Bills, how crucial are they?
Well, I think they are crucial to the extent that they are part of the precondition to an IMF program. It is not because we have assessed our country and we needed those revenues to develop the country, but we just need them so that we can meet the IMF conditionality for the program to go through.
But as it stands now, there are difficulties, and it raises the question, so if we pass it, that then obviously, should we expect them to be an automatic path then towards an IMF deal if this is passed, considering all the challenges that we have in Parliament?
Not so, because we are talking about debt exchange program first, and then we are talking about these revenue enhancing measures. So until we are done with both, I'm not sure we can clinch an IMF deal. And of course, if you look at the fiscal measures that are being put in place, we have increased the VAT 2.5%. We have removed the benchmark value from the port. We have done other increments. Then we are also putting on the table these revenue enhancing measures that will increase water, by about 20%. We increase all that excess duties that we pay. It is the same consumer that all these things are being levied on. So it is something that we ought to look at. If only we are looking at IMF program, and that's why we are doing all these things. We also need to assess the effect of all these fiscal measures that we are putting on the same consumer.
Prof, thank you very much. Professor John Gachi, the economist and the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, talking to us. I want to bring in the minority member on the Finance Committee in Parliament, Patrick Boama, joins us on the line. Thank you very much, Mr. Boama, for your time here on the majority member on the Finance Committee, Patrick Boama. Thank you very much, Mr. Boama, for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Evans, and good evening to your cherished listeners, please.
We just had your colleagues on the committee say they have concerns with these 3 bills, mainly borders on their issues surrounding the fact that it may increase the burden on the poor Ghanaian at a time when the economy is already battering them. I know you've been meeting to try and resolve this before Thursday. Have you reached a consensus?
Thank you, Evans. I believe you are talking about the excise amendment bill, the growth and sustainability bill, and the income tax amendment bill.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, because the gentleman who called me, Kwete, was talking about some approvals for the justices of the Supreme Court. Okay, let me give you a background to it. In the economic policy of the president that was presented to the president last year, what was these bills that I've mentioned. We had a committee meeting chaired by Honorable Kweku Kwate and Honorable Akufo, and the ranking member, now minority leader. I can share with you the 3 bills and the reports of the committee. The committee's decision was a unanimous decision by the entire committee. It was during the appropriation stage that we couldn't take all those 3 bills through the normal parliamentary processes of bill making. So let me the facts clear and confirm that those bills obtained a consensus decision by the committee. Just that it was during the appropriations period that we had to put them on hold because we needed to clear the Appropriations Act. So I don't understand when the minority began to have issues with a bill that consensus had been reached, a report has been produced, which I can share with you. I believe it was after the change of leadership that maybe Honorable Akufo as a new minority leader has had a change of mind, but that has not reflected in the committee's report. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a bill, there is a report that has to be debated on, and if a vote has to be taken on, then a vote will be taken on those bills.
You're confident that you get passage of these 3 bills on Thursday?
I believe so, because if you listen to the president in the State of the Nation address, there are prior action bills towards the achievement of a program with a fund. And we believe that we need to support those bills. And we have the numbers if the minority decides not to support it after agreeing with us in committee by a consensus report, then we'll take it through a vote.
You talk about numbers, and I want to bring in now the other issue that may come down to a vote, which is the ministerial nominees. The ministers who have nominated were vetted a month ago. I understand the committee report is ready, has been laid, but there's a struggle to bring it to the floor. And from what we've heard, fundamentally, is because there's a struggle on your side to get all your members in the House to ensure a passage, especially when your minority colleagues have indicated that they will reject them if it comes down to a vote.
Again, Evans, even before we started vetting Honorable Katie Hammond, Honorable Brian Champon, Honorable Amwa, Honorable Obi Amwa, Honorable Amin Anta, and Honorable Asamoah Boateng, the minority, even before we started the vetting process, had indicated that they were against these nominees because they wanted the president to reduce the size of government. Even with that, they came to sit and vetted them. And the report that the Appointments Committee produced, of which I'm a member, was that we approved the nominees by a majority decision. So that was the decision of the Appointments Committee, of which a report has been produced. And if it's laid by the first Deputy Speaker and the minority wants a vote, that one will be also taken through a voting process, which is allowed by the rules of the House.
So you're confident that when it comes down to that, you will get your members approved?
I believe so.
By the way, do you have an indication when this is going to come to the floor for a vote, for a decision?
Well, I'll know tomorrow because it will appear on the provisional order paper for Thursday, definitely.
Okay. Patrick Bama, thank you very much. And Patrick Bama is a majority member on the Finance Committee in Parliament. I want to hear from you on the decision by both the NDC on the two key points of the three bills, and then also the approval or rejection of the nominees. Get me your thoughts, 055 1111997. I'll share it with the rest of the world. And talking about that, many of you have already joined with your thoughts, particularly on the story surrounding the Electoral Commission. No matter how long a log stays in the river, it can never turn into a crocodile. President Akufo can even appoint, he says, his wife to be the commissioner of the EC, and he says the MPP will so massively lose the elections. And that's the story regarding the appointments to the Electoral Commission that the NDC is fighting tonight. Another one there from Joe, who says, it is unfortunate for President Akufo to say that the Electoral Commission, regardless of who is appointed, the most important aspect is the voting, and that the people who count really do not matter. And I want to share one more with you. Still on that same story, Henry says, Oyuwa, here they come again. How can Ghana's President Akufo be packing known MPP party members already to the Electoral Commission? He queries. And I'll do a final one, and I'll bring in George Wafe, who is here with business, and Nana on the Spintus rule. So if going by the president's logic, why did they pull heaven and earth to remove Charlotte Osei? Is a question that is asked. And George is here with business. Hello, George. And I know that one of the key things that myself and yourself we've been following, because our listeners need an update on the finance minister is en route now, possibly should be arriving in China tomorrow, from what we understand, correct?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he should be wrapping up his meeting in Ethiopia, the UN meeting in Ethiopia, that is tomorrow, and all other things being equal, if nothing comes up, he should be jetting in off.
And then we'll have conversations there. And then we understand that today the Paris Club was supposed to have met. I don't know whether they've met already. And then, of course, the three bills that we just talked about. So there's a lot happening this week that will determine our economic fate. And we're looking for some updates. And so I guess, George,
well, updates you had actually teased it, because government itself remained optimistic that it would secure Parliament's approval for the three key revenue measures needed to secure the IMF approval of Ghana's economic program. And former Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and also a former Director General of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, makes a strong case for regulators to protect retail investors in the country. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, government has indicated that it remains fairly optimistic of securing Parliament's approval for some of its key revenue measures currently before the House. There is more in this report.
The three revenue papers, that is the Income Tax Amendments Bill, Growth and Sustainable Bill, and the Excise Amendment Bill have all been laid before the House and are currently at the consideration stage. This was after it got the necessary approval from the Finance Committee of Parliament for it to be considered by the House. According to the Finance Ministry, these revenue bills should bring almost 5 billion Ghana cedis to support the economy. It, however, maintains that it has done the necessary engagement with all the interested parties to secure the approval. However, it will not hesitate to push it through a vote if it's needed. Some analysts have argued that if government is not able to get the approval this week, it could affect the timelines for getting IMF board approval for government's economic program. Well, despite this being one of the preconditions for securing an IMF program, some businesses have argued that the bills in its current form will not aid in the growth of enterprises in the country. It is not clear for now how this will affect Ghana's program request with the IMF if it fails to get Parliament approval this week. Government claims it is working hard to submit its program request for the IMF board approval by the end of the month.
And that is a Business Desk report. Meanwhile, the Ghana Upstream Petroleum Chamber is raising some concerns about the Growth and Sustainability Levy, which actually argues that the proposed tax will increase the cost of doing business for the oil and exploration companies in the country. The chamber noted that at the time that most firms in the country are struggling, this should be the last thing that government should consider, and this levy is one of the key revenue measures that is before Parliament the government is seeking to get some approval. Now, a former Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission and also a former National Director General of the Pensions Regulatory Commission are all making a strong case for improved regulation to protect investors in the country. They believe that enough has not been done in the current environment. Let's hear from Dr. Donani Nchizi, former Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission.
When this DDEP issue came, I did not see any regulator performing an investor protection role. The government is an issuer of securities, and people who are holding government securities must be protected. The fact that government securities will not go through regulations for approval before issuance does not mean people who are holding that document should not be protected. How come investors were told that I will not give you any interest whatsoever for 1 year, and regulators thought that they have no role to protect that investor?
Dr. Donanenchi is a former Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, speaking at the Graphic Stambik breakfast meeting. At that same engagement, a former Director General of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, that is Dr. Daniel Seder, noted that there is no way the burden should be put on retail investors.
The regulators need to be told in the face. They need to up their games, because it's the customers that come with the money that is invested. And it's not government that should be protected. Government is too big. So if you go on the side of government, you create more problem. I'll illustrate what Dr. Duanani said with a circular that came from the central bank. They say the old bonds, they will not admit it for capital adequacy computation. That creates problem. Who issued the old bond and who issued the new bond? It's the same government of Ghana. So what is it that you're trying to do?
A former Director General of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, Dr. Daniel Seder, speaking at the Graphic Business Stambik breakfast meeting earlier today. First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Pokuaferry, is making a strong case for policymakers to create the enabling environment for job creation to support the growing youth and those who are coming out of our universities. The First Deputy Governor said this at the congregation or ceremony of a Bachelor of Administration class of 2003 at the University of Ghana this afternoon.
Innovation allows for job creation, and we should strive towards that. We need to dream and dream big. As a matter of fact, talking about linkages between academia and industry, my current employer, the Bank of Ghana, has forged and continues to forge strong links with the University of Ghana fraternity, and that relationship will continue to strengthen. Recent developments show that academic training and the global economy, including that in Ghana, is undergoing profound technological revolution. Among others, this revolution is facilitating the ongoing of exchange of ideas, skills, and perspectives needed by the youth to drive the Ghanaian economy to the next level.
First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afare, who is also Chair, Advisory Board of College of Humanities at the University of Ghana. Now, young startups have been urged to be financially disciplined in their quest to sustain their operations. This, according to the Chief Executive Officer of Quick Credit, Richard Quay, is key to aiding their expansion. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines for a presentation of a seed capital to some startups, he encouraged entrepreneurs to preserve and make great strides within the business world.
Startups, entrepreneurs would have to be disciplined. They have to be financially disciplined. They have to be prepared to make decisions, good decisions, because as a businessman, what will distinguish you from your colleagues, or if you will survive the test of time, would depend on your ability to make great decisions faced with challenges. Okay, so when you are faced with challenges, your ability to make great decisions will determine whether you will see the next day or not.
And that is Richard Quay, he's Chief Executive of Quick Angels. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
John, thank you very much. Let's do sports now. Ms. Bao is here with the latest.
Yes, Evans. 24 players have arrived in the camp of the Black Stars, and they have touched down in Kumasi ahead of Thursday AFCON qualifier between Ghana and Angola. My colleague Stephen Zando of Love FM has been monitoring the team and has come to you with this report.
24 players touched down at the Kumasi airport around 1:50 p.m. earlier today to a low-key arrival where the Black Stars were not met with huge crowd like we usually experience in Kumasi whenever the Stars come around. There was virtually no fanfare upon arrival as the Stars boarded their bus to their base, the Lancaster Hotel. The team, led by head coach Chris Houghton, held a training session at the Babayawa Sports Stadium around 5 p.m. with all 24 players. Only Salis Abdul Samed missed the session with reasons yet unknown. They are expected back on the pitch tomorrow for the mandatory session, which shall be open to the public for the first 15 minutes. At the training today, all players participated, with the players looking fresh and poised for action on Thursday. Stephen Zando for Joy Sports.
And even so, that's it. Thursday, definitely looking forward to that game against Angola.
What's your prediction?
I think we should do 3 goals to 0. 3 goals to 0.
Is it in the country again?
Angola.
Weren't you beaten by this, I think Madagascar or something?
The past is not the present.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a new coach.
Yes.
We're all rooting for him. Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. This is your election headquarters. It's been a busy day at the headquarters of the National Democratic Congress as many aspiring to lead the NDC into the 2024 elections returned their forms after they toured the country to get signatures. One of them is former President John Dramani Mahama, and already his aides who represented him have given a strong warning to the Electoral Commission to stay neutral in its duties. My colleague Samuel Mbura was there for us and joins us on the telephone line right now. Samuel, so why is the team of former President Mahama so keen when it comes to elections and the neutrality of the Electoral Commission?
Well, the point the team is making is that previous elections have seen complaints about a lack of fair playing grounds for all participating political parties, in which they think should not be repeated in the upcoming elections. A reason they want the EC to continue to be neutral in its activities.
And they say we are not ready for any party to cheat us. We are also sending a strong signal to the EC that the essence of multi-party democracy is to give the people the best. In a situation where you portray as if you are giving an advantage to a particular party, then we'll get the type of performance you have to do.
And Samuel, one of the key challenges the party has faced over many elections is their inability to have a proper functioning collation system. What is John Mahama and his team saying about this challenge?
Well, Professor Alabi, who filed the forms and spoke on behalf of John Mahama, is optimistic that if Mahama is given the opportunity to lead them, they would build a robust coalition system that would protect and secure the elections as and when they come in.
2024 It's not going to be very easy. Around the whole country, what the people say is very simple. The NDC is coming back. They say the NDC is coming back. But you know, when something belongs to you and you don't protect it, the thief will come for it. So we are not going to sleep even though the general belief is that the NDC is coming back. We are going to work with you. We are going to work with all the organs to make sure that the next election will give the party a one-touch victory. By about 2 a.m. that day, NDC will tell you the results. We are working hard behind the scenes to make sure that our collation system is very robust.
And Samuel, they did not come there alone. They came with an entourage of Kayaye. Why were they there?
Well, I interacted with some of them. There were about 20 of them. They came with their headbands, some also having their children at the back. I was curious to know why they did that, or they were there. And what they told me was that the current government has failed them. And they think John Mahama is the only person, if given the mandate again, will come and save us from the current economic situation, make their lives better.
The economy has become hard for us. We were promised hostels by this government, but that has not been built.
And Samuel, did they transport themselves to the place themselves? Was this a natural, spontaneous decision on the part of the KIA to follow the campaign team of John Mahama?
Well, they told me that they were transported from their base. One of their leaders told them that John Mahama was filing the nomination and they should come and support him. So they transported them to that head office of the NDC, and after that, they gave them 20 cities each.
Our leader at the station told us about the filing of forms by Mahama. They brought us to the party office and we were given 20 cedis each.
So 2020, they are very, very happy with the 20 cedis. But someone tell me, John Mahama wasn't the only aspirant there today with his entourage. Of course, he didn't come himself. Who else was there?
So we have one Ernest Kobia, who hails from the Ashanti region. I'm told he's a businessman. He was the first person to pick his file his nominations today, and we are expecting that tomorrow, Kojo Bonsu will also come and file, and subsequently on Thursday, Dr. Kobina Dufour will also file. So we know there are 4. So after Thursday, the filing of nomination for the presidential should be over.
Samuel Mbura, thank you very much. And this is your election headquarters. This is where you want to stay for everything NDC internal politics, the primaries. You're keeping an eye on the NPPs as well. When it happens, you will know first. Now, a mother with chronic kidney disease, Deborah Notte, is among over 90% of patients losing sleep over cost of treatment. With no job and little support from family and friends, spending at least 800 cedis weekly on dialysis is continuously becoming a nightmare in a harsh economy. Her only saving grace is to get a transplant which cost over $50,000. Mami Sinyamiche Thompson has more in our Living Standard series.
It's Deborah's first visit to the Kolebu Dialysis Center this week. She looks frail, tired, and out of breath. She hides her swollen feet in socks and covers her body with a long-sleeved blouse and skirt. She manages to feed on some pasta and stew to give her some energy for her 4-hour dialysis session. Deborah is at the end stage of chronic kidney disease. This means her kidneys have lost their function, making the removal of waste and extra water from her blood difficult. The dialysis machine now serves as her kidneys. To manage her condition and preserve her life longer, she's now restricted in the quantity of food and liquid she takes. According to her, the process is not only draining, but can be painful as well.
So whatever fluid we take throughout the days, it stays in our body till we come on the machine and the machine draws it out. So sometimes our muscles react to it. It gives us some spasms and cramps, which are very, very extremely painful. It's like your tissues are tearing apart.
Over 5 years ago, Deborah developed eclampsia, a complicated condition developed during her pregnancy, characterized by high blood pressure. Protein also started seeping into her urine, signaling kidney damage. Deborah has since been on dialysis.
Personally, I have witnessed or seen as a particular man is late now. He did it for 15 years. That's the longest I've heard. Some get it less. Some even within 1 year of the condition, they are already gone. Some 2 years. So it depends on, I think, as and when God gives the grace.
She eventually lost a job and source of income because she couldn't work effectively. She has also lost her marriage and has very little support. Almost every week, she scrounges at least 800 cedis for her treatment.
A session like I'm doing today is 380 cedis, and that's the cheapest you can get. Kolebu is the cheapest so far. In case there are issues and we have to visit the private sector, we can pay as high as 550 for one session. And you need this at least 2 or 3 times in a week. So that piles up. And aside even the dialysis cost, we have our injections that we take to boost up our blood. Extremely expensive, 200 cedis.
But the cost is becoming difficult to bear. The benevolence of friends and family is waning. I find out from the principal nursing officer, Loretta, what the process of removing toxins from Deborah's blood entails.
There's the fistula. It's an artery and a vein which is joined together to form a huge vessel. So that one is also done surgically. That one is also another different cost. Yes. So before you can start, you have to go through all this process. You have to get the access, which takes about 2 to 3 months to mature before you can use it. Yes. So once you get the access, we have what we call the fistula needles. You have to do what we call cannulation. You have to cannulate. We have the arterial, like I said, an artery and a vein. So you connect the arterial and then the venous, and then you connect it to the blood lines. And then before you even start the whole process, you have to set up your dialysis machine. You have to set it up with the blood lines and then the dialyzer. Yes. So once you set up and then you are ready for the patient, you do your cannulation. The artery will actually bring out the blood to be filtered through the dialyzer. So after the filtration, the blood goes back to the patient. So it's more or less filtering the blood and then going back to the patient.
Loretta reveals more than 90% of patients are unable to afford care. According to her, care is expensive because the equipment and medications are imported into the country.
Transportation to come to the dialysis is an issue. So usually they will complain, oh, they don't have money to take a car to come to the center for the dialysis. And then some are actually, the cost, as like I said, the 3 times a week. They can't afford it 3 times, so they do the 2 times. So as much as possible, they need to keep their fluid level down. So they have a limit. They're supposed to take, depending on your prescription, you can only take about 500 to 750 mils of fluid, not water, fluid, the whole day.
But not all hope is lost for Deborah. She can function normally again if she's able to get a transplant. She currently needs a donor and over $50,000 for the surgery.
The transplant depends on the availability of funds. It's an extremely expensive procedure. We are talking of about 50,000 plus dollars or more, depending on which facility you get to do it. And currently, unless you travel outside to...
Until then, Deborah is relying on the government and all stakeholders to make kidney dialysis easily accessible and affordable for patients.
Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson filed that report, and that's it for News Night tonight. Geek Squad is up next, and Spikey is in the studio with me. And Spikey, I got this good news that you're having a part 2 of the conversation you started